today's episode of Crossfire Faith and Gaming. My name is Reverend David Petty, and I'm joined by Brian Swift. We're recording the podcast in two places, and we hope one of them works. Unlike Russ's internet today, which unfortunately is not working, nor does he have a great backup. So Russ is not with us. You just get the two of us. And we're here today to talk to you about camp. So, Brian, why don't you start us off with some great, easy softball type questions or conversations, or what are your thoughts on camp?
Yeah. Let me throw some softball questions at you. So you mentioned camp. I'm not sure we mentioned the full name, Crossfire Camp. So, it is a crossfire camp for, this podcast
Indeed.
that we're doing. Yeah. Can you give me kind of a little bit of an overview of what kind of camp this is?
Yes. Right after I put on my handy dandy Crossfire hat, which I think will enhance the conversation, especially for those of you audio listeners who now can appreciate and imagine that I'm wearing said Crossfire hat. If you're watching, it's probably not that funny. Anyway, so we are starting up a Crossfire camp that is the brainchild of many of us over here at Crossfire. The idea is to get people together. Of course, after the pandemic, we realized that online church was fully possible and viable, and we were doing all sorts of wonderful things with online church. But we also still value the in-person connection. And some of this stemmed actually from my childhood experience with LAN parties. And at one point, my son said to me, I wish I grew up during your time, because back then people still got together doing physical LAN parties and doing these things in person. So part of it was that, and part of it was also hearing the refrain from kids who would say, I don't want to go to summer camp. I'd rather stay home and play video games. And we had this idea, what if you could go to camp and be with people and play video games? And what if the video games became the center point for conversation and the shared common language? So we're going to do this camp in July up in the Denver area in Lakewood, July 16th through 21st. We're doing Crossfire Camp. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about camp today. Not so much the out in the woods, getting chased by bears type of camp, but a totally different experience of camp.
Yeah, we hope there's no bears in the Denver metro.
No, if bears come into this camp, we have major problems. Major problems.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, David, how long is the camp?
Yeah, so I mentioned, so it's going to be the 16th through the 21st. So that's showing up on a Sunday. And then Sunday evening, we're hoping that kids have already had dinner when they show up. And they're going to be there from Sunday until Friday. Friday morning, we're going to have morning worship. We're going to pack up our bags, send the kids out so they can have lunch on the road on their way home. So that's Sunday great. To Friday, however long that is. What's that? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 5 days total. I guess 6 total days, 5 length days. Yeah, be a good time.
And what's the venue for the camp, David?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. So we've got 2 venues. The first of which is our daily venue. It's at this place called Localhost. You can see more about that if you go to crossfire.camp. You can see the Localhost gaming arena. In fact, I'm so excited about that. I'm gonna change the text here if you're watching our video feed. Then instead of saying patreon.com/churchforgamers, which is great, you can totally go there and support us. Huge thanks to Lonnie, one of our big supporters over at patreon.com/churchforgamers. But also, if you go to crossfire.camp, then you can learn all about our camp. You can see pictures of the gaming arena that we're going to be at, Localhost in Lakewood, Colorado. And they have in their building 100 PC gaming machines. We've got, I think, 50 of them reserved, so we can have up to 50 campers. So if we get 30 campers, it's going to be a great time. If we get 50 campers, it's going to be a great time. If we get 80 campers, we're going to have to turn people away, and we're going to have to say, sorry, it's limited to 50. But yeah, it's going to be at Localhost Gaming Arena, and then we're going to be sleeping and eating breakfast and dinner at the Phillips United Methodist Church in Lakewood, Colorado, and they're going to host us for the overnight portion. So we're going to sleep at Phillips. We're going to eat at Phillips except for lunch, and then we're going to game at the local host gaming arena. So that's the location.
Awesome. David, what kind of gaming activities do we have planned?
Yeah, so we actually have we have a lot of kind of open game time. So we've got some free time that's going to be, just kids hanging out playing games. We've got some tournaments scheduled, so we're going to have like a Super Smash Bros. Tournament style tournament. I guess that's a tournament style tournament. Yeah, we're going to play Super Smash Bros. We might play some Rocket League. We might play some Minecraft. And then we're also going to probably encourage some kids to test out some new games they've never played before. That's going to be kind of fun. And then we're also just going to use games as a way of having kind of communal conversation about a lot of topics. So, in addition to just playing these fun games, we're going to use games to talk about some stuff too.
Yeah, that leads into my next question. In what ways do you think this is like similar to other camps that people would be familiar with?
Yeah. So in one obvious way is like we're getting together and fellowshipping with a bunch of people. So that's a huge obvious way. The other thing is programming wise, we're going to have a week long schedule where we're going to go through a lot of different spiritual concepts, a lot of different scriptural concepts. We're going to take kids through Genesis all the way into basically the Gospels. Probably won't get too deep into the epistles or Revelation or anything like that, but from basically Genesis through the Gospels, we'll take them through the story of God's people, the story of Christ, and the story of Christ on the cross, and even through to the grave and the resurrection, all in a week. The other thing is we're going to take that programming and we're also going to talk about themes like what does it mean to love one another? What does it mean to love your enemy? Which is a tough one that I think we all struggle with, especially in competitive games. And then we're also going to have, like I said, free time. We're going to have meals together, similar to camp. We're going to struggle to make sure that we have enough time for showers, and we're going to have people that aren't going to shower enough, similar to a normal camp. We've also got some outdoor stuff planned, so like a little trip to go on a hike. That'll be a whole lot of fun. No archery in person at this camp, so if you're coming to the camp for archery, you're just going to have to play archery on like the Wii or the Switch or on some sort of archery game. But so in a lot of ways, it's similar to camp, and in some ways, it's totally radically different.
And what about that kind of campfire time, that communal time at the end of the
Yes,
day?
yes. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Which brings me to two really important things. One way, it's totally different. And if this is the thing you're looking forward to for camp, we will not have this, and that is bugs. We will not have any bugs, at least not physical bugs. We might have software bugs.
That's
But
right.
we will not have any mosquitoes at this camp that I know of. But that being said, we are actually going to have some outdoor campfire time at Phillips United Methodist Church. And you can see a picture of it on the website at crossfire.camp. They have this wonderful little outdoor area that's kind of sit around an area. We're going to bring in our own little propane campfire. So we're going to have that campfire time. We're going to have music. We're going to talk about what we learned that day. We're going to sing some campfire songs, and it's going to be a great time. And so our hope is that people still get the same mountaintop campfire camp experience, just in a totally different setting. So it's going to be neat.
And David, what if somebody loves tabletop games? Is there going to be any of that at this camp?
Yeah, we've got a little side area at localhost. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet because I am not the tabletop gamer, but we do have some people helping us out to have some tabletop and then even board game areas off to the side too. So if you're a tabletop gamer, you can hang out and do those tabletop games, play board games during the free time. You could come to this camp and not play a single video game, and that's totally fine. But you could still come to this camp, hang out, have a good time, meet lots of people, and talk about different types of games. So, but some of our hope is that we're going to encourage one another to explore different types of games that we may or may not have actually experienced. So,
That sounds really good. I
Brian, I
may
have a
have just
question
run
for
out of
you.
questions.
Brian,
Thank you.
question
Go
for
ahead.
you. I know I'm in Colorado Springs. You're all the way up in Billings, Montana. Are you going to be able to come to this camp?
I will be coming to this camp. So, in fact, I have someone who's in my family who's the absolute target age for this camp, which I don't know if we mentioned,
We
but the
did not
target
mention.
age, yeah, is going into seventh grade all the way up through going into your senior year of high school. So we're really looking for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And I happen to have a kid who's going to be going into high school this coming year, and I'm looking forward to taking him with me. I'll be doing some of the counseling stuff, obviously, but I think it's going to be a great time for him. He is a huge gamer, and so I think we're both really excited to go.
Awesome. Yeah, and I do think, if you're listening to this and you're 30 years old and you're thinking, gosh, I wish there was an adult camp, number one, we'd love to hear from you, because I would love for this thing to be so successful that we say we absolutely have to put together a separate young adult camp time. But number two, we also still need a couple more camp counselors. So reach out, let us know if you'd be willing to be a camp counselor if you're listening to this podcast. We do require that our camp counselors are going to all go through the same background check process, the same training processes that happen at normal camp. So our camps are totally safe. Make sure that our campers are safe, because we really value that safe environment and that we create safe spaces for our youth. And I've said before, if we can't have a safe camp, then we're not going to have a camp at all. So, but if you're listening to this and you're thinking, gosh, I wish I could go. I wish I had this when I was a youth, but I'm now older than youth age. As long as you're, I think it's 5 or maybe it's 7 years older than the oldest camper. So probably if you're 25 or older, we would love if you reached out to us and volunteered to be a camp counselor. We got some space for you. So, and also, if you're listening to this and you're like, that's an awesome idea, I can't make it, I can't have a camper, you can also just reach out to us and you can donate money that'll help go towards a camper to have a camp scholarship. Because I'm guessing we're probably going to get some kids that reach out to us and say, I'd love to go to camp, but my family's struggling with money right now, or, we just don't have the funds. That's okay. We're setting up a little scholarship fund to be able to help out some folks too. Which brings me to the next point: camp fees. It is going to be $350 for the week of camp. That's right on average with some of our other big outdoor camps. And so, we're hoping to provide a similar experience for a similar price, but a totally different experience for a similar length of time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this kind of environment, you mentioned LAN parties earlier, and I've done that myself as well. Um, I know that in past LAN parties that I've been to, there's always memorable things that are going to happen. And I'm just about going to guarantee that if you go to this camp, just like if you went to a LAN party, there are going to be some fun things that are going to happen that you are never going to forget. So,
yeah, there's going to be amazing things that are going to happen that you're never going to forget. There will also be massive challenges that we will all overcome together, that you will never forget, but that overcoming those challenges will make us all better people. And there are going to be amazing, unique experiences that you will not get anyplace else. I can guarantee that you're going to have a fun experience at this camp, unlike you would get if you went, deep in the woods and had the same camp experience that people have been having this is the neat thing. I think for us, we're going to reinvent camp in a way. And so the neat thing for me is kind of creating this out of nothing. And I've been just wonderfully surprised at the people that we get to work with in doing this work and creating the programming, creating the camp. The folks at Localhost have been huge supporters of this whole idea. They're going to probably lead some of our sessions, but we're kind of creating this whole thing and birthing something new that's totally different than camp has been for the last 150 years. So I'm excited for this opportunity for us to be a part of something new and just try something new.
yeah, and I would also say, in addition to Localhost, obviously we want to give a huge shout out to Phillips UMC for helping us host this thing, giving us a place for the campers to eat and to sleep and to enjoy that campfire space that you mentioned earlier. Whether
Yeah.
we have a real authentic campfire or not, we're going to have something that's very cool at nighttime for everybody to enjoy. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, huge shout out to localhost, huge shout out to Phillips UMC, also huge shout out to the Boulder Spirit Foundation, that has basically been one of our biggest supporters in helping make this possible, and in saying, hey, we're going to help you make this thing possible, and we're gonna start kicking this off, because our hope, really, let me just talk to a second about the vision for the future. Our hope is that, we realize that the Mountain Sky Conference of the Methodist Church, and really all of the different conferences all over the place, that we live in an extremely diverse geographical area, right? I mean, the fact that there are not a whole lot of towns from Colorado Springs to from Fort Collins, right? That there's like a few major towns along the way, but there's really like Colorado Springs and then Denver and then Fort Collins, and that's some of the most major metropolitan area in all of like Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and everything else is even more spread out than that, right? We've got sections of Montana that have like hundreds of miles with, 1,000 people in them. So our hope is to also then regionalize this experience and say, okay, we know we can do this with 50 kids in Denver. Next year, could we do this with 30 kids in Salt Lake City and 30 kids in Billings, or, Bozeman, or Missoula, right? I know I've already had some conversations with some folks in Missoula about, possibly hosting it there. So, could we do this at a major metropolitan city in Montana and Utah and maybe Casper, Wyoming? But none of that's going to be possible unless we pull this year off. So we're really aiming for success this year. We want to get those registrations in. So make sure you check out crossfire.camp and register now. Send that link to somebody that you know. Tell them about this camp experience, because it's going to be truly unique and it's going to be amazing. But we can't do it without the support of our campers and our families and our churches. So, but we just thank you for joining us today and letting us talk your ear off about camp. As you can tell, we're really excited about it. I hope you are too. And feel free to reach out to us. You can send me an email. I'll just put my email up here at the top of the page right now. It is Pastor David Petty at gmail.com. Again, that is Pastor David Petty at gmail.com. It's too long to put the Gmail, but that's my email address. So like literally shoot me an email, ask me what's up. I'll even put my phone number here. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. You can send me a quick like hello. Here's my phone number, right? Shoot me a text message at 949-702-3077. Don't sign me up for spam because I'll be real sad. But send me a text message. Give me a phone call. Give me an email. Let me know how I can support you as you support us, as in general, the work that we do brings more people closer to Christ. And through our love of gaming, that we develop a Christ-centered community where people can love one another, where people can do good missions in the world, and where we can be Christians, even if we're not within the walls of a church. So, yeah. Brian, you got anything else?
I was just going to say, God bless you all, and we hope to see you at camp this year.
Yeah. Thanks again. God bless.
Crossfire.